Facebook or YouTube? I got to send it to you. Facebook.
Both of them.
Okay.
خلاص بدأنا
لسه.
لا بدأنا هنا.
طيب لا بأس.
خلاص.
طيب لا بأس.
مشكلة ولا؟
تفضل لا بأس.
طيب.
طيب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Dear brothers and sisters, listeners, viewers and watchers, tonight we're going to take from Ta'deeb al-Sirat al-Nabawiyya of the Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala. The last thing that I remember we went over was concerning, says Faslun fi Kutabihi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the scribes, the secretaries of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. the people who wrote things down for him. The people who wrote down the revelation, those who sent letters, those who gave messages to other people. And if I remember correctly, we were explaining the wisdom of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, not being someone that could read and write himself. Someone that couldn't read and write and was not formally trained in reading and write, i.e. illiterate. إِذَا لَرْتَابَ الْمُبْطِلُونَ. Those people would have had more doubt and more suspicion against the Prophet ﷺ, because it would be easy and convenient for them to say that he discovered it and wrote it down and put it in the Quran. He came across it, he learned it, he studied it, and he made his own version. But someone who lived in a location at a time with a specific upbringing, cultivation, and he didn't have access to formal education, nor was he trained in literacy, and he brought what he brought, there lies no doubt that's even stronger and greater. So we explained this in our last class. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, ذكرهم الحافظ أبو القاسم في تاريخ دمشق أنهم 23 وروى ذلك كله بأسانيده وهم أبو بكر الصديق وعمر بن الخطاب وعثمان وعلي وطلحة والزبير وأبي بن كعب وزيد بن ثابت ومعاوية بن أبي سفيان ومحمد بن مسلمة والأرقم بن أبي الأرقم وأبان بن سعيد بن العاص وأخوه خالد بن سعيد بن العاص وثابت بن قيس وحنظلة بن الربيع وخالد بن الوليد وعبد الله بن الأرقم وعبد الله بن زيد بن عبد ربه والعذاب بن عقبة والمغيرة بن شعبة والسجل أو السجل وزاد غيره شرحبيل بن حسنة. قالوا وكان أكثرهم كتابة زيد بن ثابت ومعاوية رضي الله عنهم. He mentions several companions who wrote things down for the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. The benefit of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taking scribes, we've explained. And another benefit is a benefit for the Sahaba. For someone to be your scribe, and to be your secretary, and to be the one who handles these affairs, it proves that you trust them and you respect them. فَفِي ضِمْنِ ذَلِكَ تَزْكِيَةً لَهُمْ. Included in the Prophet ﷺ taking these companions as scribes, it shows that that is min fada'ilihim. That's a virtue of this companion. Is that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ entrusted him with the wahy. He entrusted him with his speech. He entrusted him with his responsibilities in sending letters to these people. So when we talk about the virtues of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhu, he was this, he was that. This verse is pertaining to him, this hadith is pertaining to him. وَكَانَ مِن كُتَابِهِ. And he was also a scribe of the Prophet ﷺ. And from that is those who speak ill of and negatively of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. You're going to run into a serious problem in the reality, or matter of the reality, that he was one of the kutab. If Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was a fasiq, and if he was a sinner, and if he was only around for dunya, and if he was only around for money, and so on and so on and so forth, how could the Prophet ﷺ entrust him with the revelation? How could he do this? And we previously explained the wisdom of if a man is surrounded by weak men or unfaithful men, men who lack piety, uprightness, then that is nothing more than a reflection of that man himself. You may have one person who infiltrated your camp, one person that you're unaware of, one imposter that's really, really, really good. You don't know that he's a spy. Maybe one, but 2, 3, 4, all of the people surrounding you, all of them are munafiqs. All of them, none of them believe. They're all just out for a dunya when you die. And you didn't know about it, you didn't realize it, and you were oblivious to it. That is the ultimate disrespect to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ by attacking the Sahaba who were with him day and night. You understand this? So oftentimes these people, they say that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was surrounded by these companions who were greedy or cowardly, who wanted to cheat Ali radiallahu anhu out of the rightful khilafah, so on and so forth. What does that say about the Messenger of Allah? If his best friend was a munafiq, and he didn't even know it, and he was oblivious to the fact for 23 years. What does that say about him? So this is from the tricks and the traps of the shaitan, is that sometimes people go so extreme in a thing that they become blinded from something else. And that's exactly what happens to those who speak ill of the companions. Khairan inshallah. So from the scribes was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, was Umar ibn Khattab, Uthman, Ali, Talha, Zubayr, Ubay ibn Ka'b, Zayd ibn Thabit, Muawiyah ibn Sufyan, Muhammad ibn Maslama, Alqam ibn Abid Alqam, and Aban ibn Sa'id, and many others were from the Kutab of the Prophet Faslan fi rusulihi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. أرسل صلى الله عليه وسلم عمرو بن أمية الضمري إلى النجاشي فأخذ كتاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ووضعه على عينيه ونزل عن سريره فجلس على الأرض ثم أسلم حين حضره جعفر بن أبي طالب وحسن إسلامه وأرسل صلى الله عليه وسلم دحية بن خليفة الكلبي بكتاب إلى هرقل العظيم الروم وعبد الله بن حذافة السهمي إلى كسرى ملك فارس وحاطم بن أبي بلتعة اللخمي إلى المقوقس ملك مصر والإسكندرية فقال خيرا وقارب أن يسلم وأهدى لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مارية القبطية وأختها شيرين فوهبها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لحسان بن ثابت وأرسل عمرو بن العاص إلى ملكي عمان فأسلما وخليا بين عمرو وبين الصدقاء والحكم فيما بينهم فلم يزل عندهم حتى توفي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأرسل صليت بن عمرو العامري إلى اليمامة إلى هوذة بن علي الحنفي وأرسل شجاع بن وهب الأسدي إلى الحارث بن أبي شامر الغساني ملك البلقاء من أرض الشام وأرسل المهاجر بن أبي أمية المخزومي إلى الحارث الحميري وأرسل العلاء بن الحضرمي إلى المنذر بن ساوى العبدي ملك البحرين فصدق وأسلم وأرسل أبا موسى الأشعري ومعاذ بن جبل إلى جنة اليمن داعيين إلى الإسلام فأسلم عامة أهل اليمن ملوكهم وسوقتهم. He now speaks on the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's delegates, or his messengers, or his apostles, quote unquote. Those whom he sent with letters, he sent them with messages, he sent them with missions to various neighboring countries to give them da'wah, to explain to them Islam, etc. And the same wisdom or wisdoms that we mentioned concerning the scribes is going to be mentioned here. Nafsu shay. It is a tazkiyah for these companions, and the wisdom that the Messenger of Allah didn't do everything himself. And what we learn and benefit from that right now, right here in 2019, is teamwork. You have to work as a team. No matter how gifted and talented and skilled you are, you need your members. And you can't and you should not do everything yourself. You should not do everything yourself, even if you can do it. From the wisdom of not doing everything yourself is that it allows those other individuals to feel a part of it, and to feel important and substantial and loved and needed. And the strongest or the greatest thing that you need for a successful team is chemistry and morale. Chemistry and morale. You can have 5 superstars playing for your basketball team. It doesn't mean you're going to win a chip. You have to have good chemistry. And good chemistry means balance. And most importantly is morale. And anyone who's ever studied anything about the history of warfare and of battle and of combat, men living and dying, losing their lives and their causes, they know the importance of morale. And if an army is low on morale, very seldom can it win. And if an army is strong and high on morale, very seldom will it lose. And from the ways of obtaining and achieving this is the general, the leader, the coach, the captain, involving everyone. Getting everyone involved. Even if I can play 2 other positions. But no, this is your play. You're going to do this. And this thing you want to take care of. And it's a sense of worth and value. So the Messenger of Allah, of course, he knew this. And that's why he had Sahaba that did different things for him. Khairan inshallah. He mentions Amr ibn Umayyah al-Damri, whom he sent to Najashi. Radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the king and the leader of Abyssinia at the time, Negus. And he took the book of the Messenger of Allah, the scroll, the letter, and he placed it on his eyes. It says, وَضَعَ عَلَىٰ عَيْنَيْهِ وَنَزَلَ عَنْ سِرِيرِهِ. And he got down from his throne. فَجَلَسَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ. And then he sat down on the ground. And then he accepted Islam. Later on, when Ja'far ibn Abi Talib came to Abyssinia, وَحَسُنَ إِسْلَامُهُ. And he became a good and strong Muslim. And we all know the story of Najashi, mentioned in those verses in the Quran al-Kareem, and in the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the virtue of that king and the Sahaba who migrated to that land of Abyssinia. He also mentions Dihya al-Kalbi was sent to Herakl, some say Heraclius, of Rome, and Abdullah ibn Hudhafa al-Sahmi was sent to the Persian leader, and Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a was sent to the king of Egypt. And he mentions the different things that took place. Some of those kings accepted Islam, others came close to accepting Islam. Some of those kings respected the Messenger of Allah's letter and respected his messengers and his delegates, etc. etc. Moving forward to the next chapter. First one, في مؤذنيه صلى الله عليه وسلم. له صلى الله عليه وسلم أربعة من المؤذنين، بلال وابن أم مكتوم بالمدينة، وأبو محذورة بمكة، والسعد بن القرض بقباء، وسيأتي بيان أحوالهم في تراجمهم إن شاء الله تعالى. He says the Messenger of Allah had 4 mu'adhins, 4 steady main mu'adhins. The first of them, of course, is the most famous, was Bilal, radiallahu ta'ala. And then there was Ibn Maktoum, Abasa wa Tawalla. Allah sent down the verses concerning, he frowned and turned away. And Ja'ahu al-A'ma, because the blind man came seeking to learn about Islam and accept Islam. But the Messenger of Allah was aiming for higher people. He wanted bigger people to accept Islam, for everyone to accept Islam. And also Abu Mahdura in Mecca. Abu Mahdura was one of his muadhins, and of course was Sa'ad al-Qaraf and Quba. And he says, and we'll explain their names and their biographies later on in the book, meaning the asl of the kitab, from which he took this introduction, this introduction has been taken. Play the wisdom of the Messenger of Allah having 4 mu'adhins. First and foremost is the virtue of those companions that they were trusted. And the ulama of Islam, they have stated that the mu'adhin is supposed to be someone who's very righteous, very pious, and extremely trustworthy and reliable. First and foremost is the time. Someone could lie, someone could exaggerate, or someone could forget. Someone could become heedless. But the mu'adhin has to be very vigilant and aware of time, on point. Also, back in the day, the people didn't use microphones, nor did they make the adhan inside of the masjid, but they would climb to the top of the masjid. They would climb on the roof of the masjid. They would climb to the minara, the minaret, whatever it was. And the houses back then were very different than how they are now. Many people didn't have roofs. They didn't have roofs on their houses. And many people like that in Medina still have houses like that, which is no official roof. One room may be covered off, but there are many parts in which there's no roof. And the houses were short. So the one who would make the adhan obviously would have access to people's personal life. So he had to be someone that wasn't going to look and stare and wouldn't allow his gaze to fall into someone's private, discreet lifestyle. So the mu'adhin was very trusted. And we know that the Messenger of Allah said in the authentic hadith, the narration of Muawiyah ibn Sufyan radiallahu anhu, Sahih Muslim, إِنَّ أَطْوَلَ النَّاسِ عَنَاقًا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ الْمُؤَذِّنُونَ. Those who have the longest necks on the Day of Judgment are the mu'adhins. And one of the greatest things in Islam is to be a mu'adhin. So that's one of the virtues and one of the wisdoms of him having several mu'adhins. Another wisdom, as we just said, is to involve all of his companions. And also is to show the people the diversity of the teaching of the adhan. That's because there are different styles of the adhan. They're generally the same, but there are a few give or take points of the adhans that they were taught to different companions. And this should show us that fiqh and the rulings of fiqh, oftentimes, we make things tight, but there's room. There's room. You understand this? Also, the concept of how many adhans were there in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Was there an adhan at night, and then an adhan in the morning when the Fajr came in? When do you say as-salatu khayrun min al-nawm? The first adhan or the second adhan, etc. The fiqh of the adhan oftentimes pertains to these companions. And Ibn Maktoum was a blind man. He couldn't see with his physical eyes. We know that bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, Allah says in the Quran that the eyes don't go blind, but the heart goes blind. He could see clearly, better than some men with full 20/20 eyesight or vision. But his vision outwardly was impaired. And that's our wisdom And that's because he's going to make the adhan at a specific time. And he's not going to make an error or mistake based off of what he sees or thinks. And that's why the Messenger of Allah says, Inna Bilalan yu'adhinu bilaylin. That Bilal's adhan is at night. فَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يُؤَذِّنَ ابْنُ أُمِّ مَكْتُومٍ فَإِنَّهُ رَجُلٌ أَعْمَى لا يؤذن حتى يقال له أصبحت. He says Bilal makes the adhan at night time. As far as Ibn Maktoum, then he's blind. And he does not make the adhan until someone tells him that the morning has come, the morning has come. One mu'adhin going up and one mu'adhin coming down. Taking turns, etc. Substituting. Khairan inshallah. Moving forward, he says فصل عمره وحجته وغزواته وسراياه صلى الله عليه وسلم. ثبت في الصحيحين أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم اعتمر 4 عمر بعد الهجرة ولم يحج إلا حجة واحدة حجة الوداع التي ودع الناس فيها سنة 10 من الهجرة وغزا بنفسه صلى الله عليه وسلم 25 غزوة. هذا هو المشهور. وقول موسى بن عقبة ومحمد بن إسحاق وأبي معشر وغيرهم من أئمة السير والمغازي وقيل 27. ونقل أبو عبد الله محمد بن سعد في الطبقات الاتفاق على أن غزواته صلى الله عليه وسلم بنفسه 27 غزوة وسراياه 56 وعددها واحدة مرتبة على حسب وقوعها. قالوا ولم يقاتل إلا في 9 بدر وأحد والخندق وبني قريظة وبني المصطلق وخيبر وفتح مكة وحنين والطائف. وهذا على قول من قال فتحت مكة أو فتحت مكة عنوة. وقيل قاتل بوادي القرى وفي الغابة وبين النضير والله أعلم. He then goes on to speak on how many times the Messenger of Allah performed the Umrah, and how many times he performed the Hajj, and how many battles and military excursions did the Messenger of Allah embark upon. How many times did he perform Umrah? How many times did he perform Hajj? How many times did he actually fight? And how many times did he go out and ride in the cause of Allah without a major battle taking place? And the benefit that we learn from this as Muslims, first and foremost, is to learn about the Messenger of Allah in greater depth. In greater depth. And all knowledge doesn't have to be practical. All knowledge doesn't have to be pragmatic. Much knowledge can be just a theory, just to know about it. Facts, information. And of course, it's a greater benefit and of deeper impact if that theory is also practical, which this is. So the Messenger of Allah, he made Umrah a certain amount of times, proving that it's permissible to make Umrah more than once. And proving that it's not haram or disliked not to make Umrah every single year and do it all of the time. Am I saying this? And the wisdom of the Messenger of Allah doing different things in different places. Now, so he says, the Messenger of Allah, he made Hajj once, and that was the farewell Hajj, that's it. And he made Umrah 4 times. After the Hijrah. After the Hijrah. 4 times after the Hijrah. And the 10th year of the Hijrah is when he made the Hajj. When was Hajj legislated? We know it was legislated before the Prophet made Hajj. Who led the Muslims in Hajj? It wasn't the Messenger of Allah. It was Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. As far as the battles of the Messenger of Allah والسلام, then he himself, it says he fought 25 battles. 25 battles himself. The companions, but he with them was only 25 times. And this is the well-known view of the Imams of Sirah, the Sirah masters, those who specialize in Sirah, such as Musa ibn Uqba, Muhammad ibn Ishaq, Abu Ma'shar, and others. And others, they say 27 battles, give or take 2 battles. Ibn Sa'd rahimahullah ta'ala in the Tabaqat, he mentions these battles. Okay? And the Prophet ﷺ, he only fought, there was only physical fighting in what? 9 of those battles. So the other battles, there wasn't actual what? Fighting. It was peacefully settled, peaceful surrender, it was dissolved, whatever the case may be. Khairan inshallah. So the first of them was Badr, there was actual fighting. And then we have Uhud. the trench Khandaq. We have Banu Qurayza, the Jews of Medina, Banu Mustalaq, Khaybar, and the conquest of Mecca. After that is Hunayn, and then Taif. And that is including those who hold the view that there was actual fighting in Mecca. And others say that there was no swords, no spears drawn in Mecca, but Mecca, the people of Mecca, they surrendered peacefully. The ulama, they differ on that. Was there actual fighting or not? Had الفتيات عنوة أم لا? Was there actual fighting in Mecca, or was it just a peaceful surrender? A peaceful surrender. Now, the benefit behind this is those who say that the Messenger of Allah was bloodthirsty, and he was a vicious killer, and a vicious warmonger, and he was just someone who just wanted to kill and pillage and plunder and conquer. How many people died in these battles? How many people died? What are the statistics of these battles? How many children were killed, women raped? How many villages were burnt down? How much property was destroyed in these battles? In comparison to 10 years of this leader, 20 years of this dictator, 5 years of this president. How many bombs were dropped? Innocent people were destroyed. As you said, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. What did those non-combatant Japanese people, what did they do to deserve to be liquidated by those bombs? The Imperial Army of Japan, they did this, they did that, no problem. Pearl Harbor, whatever the case may be. But what did those children in Nagasaki, what did they do? What harm did they cause to the rest of the world? What war crimes did they commit to American and Australian POWs? So the concept of the Prophet's warfare and the battles that he fought is of no comparison to the carnage, the destruction, the mutilation, and the violation of all humanity fought in 1 day of war, 10 days of war, 30 days of war, let alone the career of this leader, and of this Caesar, and of this Khan, and of this one, and of that one. So you want to talk about the Prophet being bloodthirsty, being a warmonger? Let's talk about it. Let's mention the facts. How many opportunities did he have to fight in which he didn't fight? Out of 25 times, he only actually fought what? 9 times. That's the minority, and not the majority. Meaning that the violence wasn't what? What was intended. That was the only option. So oftentimes they run from these facts, they run from these topics, and they run from these discussions. But as we've stated before, sometimes it's best to discuss, and let's talk about, but with the condition, facts. No lies, no exaggerations, and let's make a comparison now. As we said, no taqleed. No, oh, I heard this and I thought this. No, we're only going to discuss hukuk, or the haqaq, strictly facts. Okay? So if the Prophet was such a bloodthirsty person, then clearly all of his enemies would have been killed, wiped away. Everyone would have been enslaved. The people of Mecca, he would have taken his revenge against them. They would all have been cut down and slaughtered because they wronged him, they oppressed him, they called him a liar, they kicked him out of his home. But that's not what he what? He didn't do that. That's not what he did. He didn't do that. All right? So we have to be very mindful of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's fighting in his battles, and we shouldn't be ashamed of it. We shouldn't be ashamed of it. That's all we'll say about that topic right now. Moving forward. النووي رحمه الله, he says, فصل في أخلاقه صلى الله عليه وسلم. كان صلى الله عليه وسلم أجود الناس، وكان أجود ما يكون في رمضان، وكان أحسن الناس خلقا وخلقا، وألينهم كفا، وأطيبهم ريحا، وأكملهم حجا، وأحسنهم عشرة، وأشجعهم وأعلمهم بالله، وأشدهم لله خشية، ولا يغضب لنفسه ولا ينتقم لها، وإنما يغضب إذا انتهكت حرمات الله عز وجل، فحينئذ يغضب ولا يقوم لغضبه شيء حتى ينتصر للحق، وإذا غضب أعرض وأشاح. وكان خلقه صلى الله عليه وسلم القرآن، وكان أكثر الناس تواضعا، يقضي حاجة أهله ويخفض جناحه للضعفة، وما سئل شيء قط فقال لا، وكان أحلم الناس وكان أشد حياء من العذراء في خدرها، والقريب والبعيد والقوي والضعيف عنده في الحق سواء، وما عاب طعاما قط، إن اشتهاه أكله وإلا تركه، ولا يأكل متكئا ولا على خوان، ويأكل ما تيسر ولا يمتنع من مباح ما وكان يحب الحلواء والعسل ويعجبه الدباء وهو اليقطين وقال النعم الإدام والخل وفضل عائشة على النساء كفضل الثريد على سائر الطعام وكان أحب الشاة إليه الذراع وقال أبو هريرة رضي الله عنه خرج رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من الدنيا ولم يشبع من خبز الشعير يعني للعدم وكان يأتي الشهر والشهران ولا يوقد في بيت من بيوته نار. No, he goes on to explain the character of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. His moral conduct. He was the most generous. And he was even more generous in Ramadan. He was the best, and he had the best of both worlds, physically and morally. The best body, the best appearance, and the best behavior. He had the softest hands, the sweetest smell, and he was the most intellectual, he was the sharpest mentally. أكملهم حجا, the most cunning, the most witty, the sharpest, the smartest. وأحسنهم عشرة, and he was the most agreeable person to live with. He was the most agreeable person to live with. He didn't get into arguments and disputes and debates unnecessarily like we do. Attitude problems and ego problems and looking for a fight wasn't the person of his character. He was easygoing, simple to get along with. And he was the most learned of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one knew Allah more than him. And he had the greatest fear of Allah. And he never became angry for personal reasons. And he never took revenge and vengeance for personal reasons. And if and when he became angry, it was only because Allah's rights were violated. Then that's it. And if he became angry, he would only support the truth and seek the victory for the truth. That's it. And he would allow his anger to dissolve and to go away. He wouldn't stay mad and hold grudges. The Messenger of Allah's character was the Quran. And he was the humblest of all men. And he would look after his family members. He looked after the weak. No one was scorned. No one was disdained. And he never, ever said no. When someone asked him for something, he never said no. Sabaqaka biha, Okasha. He says, Okasha beat you to it. Okasha asked first, and that's it. And he never told the man, lest minhum. You're not from the people who enter paradise without reckoning and without punishment. But he said, Sabaqaka biha, Okasha. And we've spoken on this many times before. The mark of a good leader. We talked about this last week. Smoothness, wisdom. He never told the man no, which we would hurt the man, or the man would feel he was treated harshly or lying on after. He said that Okasha asked the question first. Class, it was a one-time offer. Ya Rasulullah, ask Allah to make me from them. He said to Okasha, Anta minhum, you're from them. فَقَامَ رَجُلٌ آخَرُ. Another man stood up, asked the same question. He said, La, no. He said, سَبَقَكَ بِهَا Okasha. The Prophet never told people no. He never told people no. It's a very useful skill for a father, for a mother, and for a leader. It's to avoid telling people no when you don't have to, when you don't have to. He said, and the Messenger of Allah was the most tolerant of all men. He was tolerant, forbearing, and he was the shyest of all men. And everyone was treated fairly, equally to the Messenger of Allah concerning their rights. The close, the remote, the strong, and the weak. The Messenger of Allah never looked down upon any food that he ate. If he liked it, he ate it. And if he didn't like it, he wouldn't eat it. He wouldn't touch it. The Prophet ﷺ, he ate, he never ate in a way which is called etiquette. Whether it means he sat back, or whether it means he didn't sit with his legs crossed and folded. Meaning he wouldn't become stable and set to eat a lot. And he never ate upon a khiwan, like a small table. He never ate upon these things. Rather, he would just eat upon the earth. And it doesn't mean that it's haram to eat on a table. It doesn't mean that it's disliked. But he didn't eat on any type of table. He would eat on the floor. And the Messenger of Allah, he would eat whatever he had. Whatever was permissible and fine and lawful, that's what he would eat. Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullah. And he was fond of sweet things. Sweet things. The Messenger of Allah, he enjoyed sweet things. And he also was very fond of squash. He's very fond of squash and zucchini. Al-yaqtin. He liked these things. And he says, Ni'man idamul khal. He says, vinegar is an excellent sauce. The point is he liked different things. And he wouldn't prevent himself from eating what? Lawful things. And he said that Aisha's virtue over the rest of the women is like the virtue of meat and sauce over the rest of food. I.e., it's not haram to eat meat. It's not haram to drink something which is good and tasty, nor is it disliked. Allah commands us, Kulu min at-tayyibat, eat from the good, lawful things that we have given you. So this goes to show us, as we have explained before, the way of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ is the Quran and the Hadith. And this way and that way, and we have to make up this way, you should eat this. Fulan would eat until his tongue turned green. Fulan would eat until his tongue turned black. You'll find these narrations. This Imam wouldn't allow this fruit to come into his house. It's all nice. It's beautiful. It sounds great, but that's not what? The way of the Prophet ﷺ. Without no disrespect to anyone. As we said before, it isn't strange to find these narrations. This person would not eat fresh food. This person would not sit in the shade. This person wouldn't go to sleep unless he was sitting up. That sounds great, but the Prophet slept. The Prophet got married. The Prophet, he did all these lawful things. And that's the Sunnah. And that's the zuhud of the Kitab and the Sunnah. It's not to transgress the boundaries of the Kitab and the Sunnah. You understand this? Not to transgress the boundaries of what? The Kitab and the Sunnah. Whatever the Prophet did is what we should do. And as I said before, it isn't a hard, difficult task to find those athar. فُلَانْ كَانَ يَصُومُ حَتَّى يَخْضَرْ لِسَانُهُ. He would fast until his tongue became green. And this one, when he heard the Quran being recited, he passed out and he died immediately. It sounds great, but the Prophet said what? That's not what he did, nor did he teach his companions to do that. So, zuhud, there's a proper zuhud and there's a what? An improper zuhud. In light of the Kitab and the Sunnah. In light of the Kitab and the Sunnah. Moving forward. And the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was very fond of lamb and goat. And the part that he liked the most was the flank or the shank. Al-dhira'. It says here, and al-dhira' obviously can be translated into different ways. We can say lamb shank, but technically the shank is a part of the lamb, a shank. And the dhira' is the what? Upper part. One may say the shoulder. It walks on 4 legs out of him. Out of him, he ate this. He ate meat. So no one can come and say red meat is haram. Or red meat is evil. Red meat is bad to the human body. And that's why I said when I was asked the question, you may disagree, that's fine. I don't see how there could be a Muslim who's a vegan. I don't see it being possible. A vegetarian, perhaps. Pescatarian, only eat fish, perhaps. But a vegan and be a Muslim and believe in the Quran and the Sunnah, and to believe that meat is bad and evil and it destroys your body and milk is like toxic to the human, I just don't see how it can what? It just doesn't mix, huh? And Allah what? Surely knows best. Perhaps there are some vegan Muslims. I don't know what they'll say about those verses in the Quran and those hadiths. Wallahu a'lam. Moving forward, he says here, Abu Hurairah narrated that the Messenger of Allah, he left this world and he never became full from bread that was made from barley. You ever had barley before? Wheat bread. Imagine you just had wheat bread for dinner. Or from white flour, just bread. Let alone from what? Sha'ir. It wasn't a fine type of substance. You understand this? The person, he didn't eat extravagantly if he didn't have it. And if he had meat, if he had fresh milk, if he had fruit, fresh fruit, he would what? That's what he would eat. Had the oil. There is no other type of exotic way. I want to intentionally not eat meat. I want to intentionally not eat good things because I want to practice zuhd. You eat what Allah gives you. You eat what Allah gives you. If we have water and dates, alhamdulillah. And if Allah gives us lamb chops, we say what? Say Bismillah and alhamdulillah. Moving forward. And we know that months went by and there was no fire seen in the houses of the Messenger of Allah. So how does this make sense now? For the Prophet to be this warmonger, and this man who was a womanizer, and this man who was just a political leader, but there was no fire in any of his homes. If there was no fire seen, that means there was no what? Cooked food. Could you go a month without no cooked food? Dates and water and milk for a month. 2 months, 3 months. Is that the description of a womanizer? Is that the description of a warmonger? Is that the description of a warlord? Is that the description of someone who's thirsty for the hayat al-dunya? He could have called Uthman or Abdurrahman ibn Auf or Abu Bakr to what? Bring me the finest of the fine. And they would have brought it to him and presented to him. If you want more information on this topic, then please go to the explanation that we have done of Kitab al-Zuhd wa-Riqaq wa-Raqaq min Mukhtasar Sahih Muslim. We did a few years in Toronto, the explanation of that chapter from Sahih Muslim on piety and softening of the heart, in which we explained and mentioned the kalam of some of the ulama of Islam, such as Ibn Qayyim, regarding the reality of zuhd. The reality of zuhd and the imbalance and the balance of the understanding of what zuhd is and what zuhd isn't. Please go back to that playlist. He says, وَكَانَ يَأْكُلُ الْهَدِيَّةِ وَلَا يَأْكُلُ الصَّدَقَةِ وَيُكَافِئُ عَلَى الْهَدِيَّةِ وَيَخْسِفُ النَّعْلَ وَيُرَقِعُ الثَّوْبَ وَيَعُودُ الْمَرِيضِ ويجيب من دعاه من غني وفقير ودني وشريف ولا يحقر أحدا. He says the Messenger of Allah ﷺ would eat from a gift. If someone gave him a gift, he would take it, but he would not eat from charity. He would not eat from charity. And whenever someone gave him a gift, he would return the favor. And he would stitch his sandals. He would sew his torn or tattered garments. He would visit the sick. He answered all invitations, rich, poor, highborn, lowborn, peasant, noble, aristocrat. And he looked down upon no one. He didn't discriminate what the people looked like, where they came from. If there was no reason not to answer the call, he would go. And obviously these things are tremendous lessons for us all. And when you sit down and you ask yourself, oftentimes, or you look in the mirror, you'll find a great deal of prejudice or discrimination or just scorning people. Here you'll go to this person's invitation, but not to that brother's invitation. Here you'll go out of your way to go there, but you won't go out your way to go there. And the same applies to giving dawah. And many brothers, they make this mistake. They only give dawah what? To pretty women. It's the reality, especially in Philly. You say, tabligh. I'm making this up, that's it. Give dawah to the what? To the donkeys. That's it. She's not that pretty, what? Oh, you know. It's a reality. Stop thinking that, how long it's been a while since you heard that? Tell you. So the people, they only give dawah to certain class of people. Certain races of people, they get dawah and no one else gets dawah. Or they look down upon others. You're weaker, you're inferior, I'm better, I'm this and I'm that. So I'll take your gift, I'll take your invitation, but not yours. That's wrong. And that's not the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And if you look in the mirror and judge yourself, oftentimes you'll find what? You'll find some of this. You'll find some of this, and that's not the way. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, بِحَسَبْ أَوْ بِحَسَبِ امْرِئٍ مِنَ الشَّرِّ أَنْ يَحْقِرَ أَخَاهُ الْمُسْلِمِ. He says, to scorn your Muslim brother is more than enough sin. It's more than enough sin for you to scorn your Muslim brother and to hold your Muslim brother in contempt, all right, for one reason or another. So that there'll be a lesson for us all. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. May Allah protect us from that. Khair, inshallah, we'll stop here with regards to the seerah. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, hopefully we'll take a few questions. If we have any questions from the brothers here or those who are online, Allah knows best. We ask Allah to allow us to implement these characteristics of the Prophet ﷺ and to act upon this moral character which was so beautiful and so stellar. And there lies no doubt the quality of our lives would be 100 times better if we copycatted the Prophet ﷺ in our homes, in our workplaces, in the masjids, in our countries, in our cities. If we overlooked the faults, if we didn't look for faults, if we forgave, forgot, if we didn't get angry for ourselves, if we didn't scorn anyone, if we took the invitation, if we treated all the people as they should be treated according to the Quran and the Sunnah, and Allah surely knows best. Bismillah. The hadith about the woman garments dragging, stating the garment will pass through filthy places and clean places, and the Messenger of Allah was heard to say what comes after it purifies it. Can you explain that Does it apply to us? The dragging garments are filthy and drag filth in the masjid and our houses. What is meant by dragging? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah ta'ala, if you get a chance, please go back to the explanation of Al-Lu'lu wal-Marjan, the playlist of Kitab al-Tahara, the book of purification from the hadiths of Bukhari and Muslim, in which we were explaining, and it's very important, extremely important, with regards to those narrations about cleaning yourself with stones when you use the bathroom. The narrations about the Prophet making wudu and ghusl with such a small amount of water. The narrations about the filthy things being thrown into the well, and the Prophet and the companions still used the water, and he said that it was pure, and nothing makes water impure. Things that you can't begin to think about and ponder on. And one of the reasons that you can't is the nature of our world today. And that is, we have, mashallah, so much access to water. And in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they had so little access to water. Water was extremely scarce. And water in the desert and in the cities and the places that are surrounded in the desert is going to be one of the greatest and most valuable commodities. And that is why they looked after water so much and so heavily. But you can't even begin to understand that. You have a running shower, hot steaming water, in which, without any exaggeration, you can take a half an hour shower until your skin becomes soggy, your fingertips are wrinkly. Half an hour of steaming hot water. That, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, was something which was for a king. Someone of utmost royalty to have the access to a shower, to a bath. And that's another concept, the hadith about making ghusl on Jumu'ah. Making ghusl on Jumu'ah. The Prophet told the people to wash on Friday. And he never told them to wash Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because water was so scarce. So in order to understand these types of hadiths, you have to understand their lifestyle and their environment. And this is extremely important, especially for those who attack Islam today. Number two is the concept of our roads. Did they have asphalt in the time of the Prophet? They have cement in the time of the Prophet. Did they have these stone floors and marble floors like we have? They did. They didn't have carpet in the time of the Prophet. So many things are different. And the Messenger of Allah says oftentimes he would speak about rulings only based off of the scenario and the situation. The scenario and the situation. Making wudu from seawater tastes salty. Making ghusl with seawater is salty. Making istinja with seawater is salty. It's not the sunnah to go make wudu with seawater if you have fresh water. He spoke to them because they were seamen, they were travelers. So use the water in your situation because water is extremely scarce. So therefore, how do we wash our clothes? What do we do? When a woman has a menstruation, and I'm going to mention this, I'm not trying to be gross or vulgar, but let's just mention the facts. Do you bleed on your overgarment? Do you have menstrual blood on your overhead abaya? That is something that you would consider to be ultimately disgusting and horrible. The thought of having spots of blood on your overgarment. But what do the hadith say about that? For the woman to do what? To scratch it off, to wash it off, the mu'tihi. Because water was so scarce. Because the standards of hygiene and things were not how they are now. So a woman, she would be freaked out if the blood of the menstruation got to this part of her clothes and this part of her underclothes, let alone to her what? Her garment. So you understand this issue of the garment dragging and being cleaned in that light. We're not walking in the desert. We have access to laundromats. We have access to water. We have access to soap. We have access to all of these different Febreze and fresheners. So it's a difference. Let alone you have to understand the difference between dry najasa versus wet najasa. There's a difference. Walking in something dry versus walking in something wet. And the concept of what's meant by the woman's overgarment. Does it have to fall on the floor? Does it have to drag on the floor? Or is it meant to just cover her feet? And if she wears shoes, if her garment is long enough, and her feet are covered, her skin is covered, then that's a different story. So understanding the hadiths, the proper fiqh of those hadiths is the most important thing. And not just knowing them and memorizing them and reading them, but having fiqh al-sunnah, the fiqh of the sunnah, the proper comprehension of the hadith in light of all of the hadiths, all of the ayat, and of course, the threads that bind those pearls together. And that is al-qawa'id, al-fiqhiyya, and al-maqasid. The higher aims and objectives of the sharia, and the fiqh maxims, there's no doubt about that. Those fuqaha, those hanabila, and shafi'iyya, and the hanafiyya, and the malikiyya, and the zahiriyya, and the other fuqaha who served the deen and gave us the threads to merge the pearls together. So we have to understand it as a whole. Do we understand this or not? As a what? As a whole. There are many, many other examples like this. So the woman's garment does not have to drag on the floor, but her feet have to be covered. And it does not have to become holy and tattered and filthy and dusty and then on your carpet. Everyone understand this? There's a difference. Wallahu ta'ala, that's in brief. Next question says, I sometimes have dreams that come true. What does this mean? The dream is of three types, as we know. The dream that's true, the dream that's from your subconscious, and the dream that is caused by the shaitan. So if it comes true, and it becomes vivid, and it's a good dream, then alhamdulillah. Allah is showing you something, teaching you something, and perhaps it's a blessing of Allah upon you to see something and to be told and given in glad tidings, and then it takes place. Everyone understand this? The concept of dreams in Islam is of paramount importance. And that's why we explained the book of At-Ta'bir, interpretation of dreams. And that's why we have the chapter of Yusuf alayhi salam. And the greatest feature that he had was dream interpretation. That's what freedom from prison. Khairan inshallah. So dreams are very important, and I would advise you to purchase the literature that's available on dream interpretation from the Muslim aspect, the Islamic aspect, and non-Muslim as well. And you'll be shocked when you read about the different cultures and civilizations and religions, and all of them agree on the importance and the impact of a dream. And we've spoken on this many times before, many lectures. Wallahu a'lam. What does deja vu mean on an Islamic point of view? Does it fall under the category of dreams? Perhaps. Perhaps it does. What's important is people that ask the question, is deja vu true? Can Muslims believe in it? We don't ask that question. The proof that it's true, and the proof that you believe in it is that what? It takes place. And no one can neglect that and deny that. And there are many, many unexplained phenomena of the human mind and the human psyche. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions that we have created man fi ahsani taqweem. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. And there's ayah after ayah after ayah, in which Allah talks about how He perfected man. And from that are the dimensions and the levels of the mind, of the heart, and the soul. And from that is a dream. And from that could be deja vu. And from that is having the ability to feel, to think, and so on and so forth. Wallahu a'lam. We don't limit Allah's perfection. Everyone understand this? We don't disrespect Allah's perfection. And many people, they do this. And they think to believe in this, or the dreams, oh, you're a Sufi. You put a limit, you put a cap on Allah. What do you think that means? Fi ahsani taqweem. What do you think that means? Just a crude physical way? No. And there's scientists and specialists, non-Muslims, atheists, to this day, they marvel over the phenomenon of the human mind. They marvel over it. How much information they can hold, feelings, thoughts, times, places, nostalgia. The mind is mind-boggling. And there's no computer that can do what the mind can do. And the eye, and the ear, and the fingertips, and the list goes on. And all of the things that we do when we make up technology is doing nothing more than mimicking Allah's natural creation. Quote unquote, the word natural obviously is a problematic term. But Allah's original creation. Al-Bari al-Musawwir, the concept of a phone, of a picture, Bluetooth, cloud, face recognition, all of that comes from where? From humans. The concept of planes, submarines, stealth, radar, sonar, all of that comes from animals, birds, and insects that are stealth, that are nocturnal, that see in the dark. And the list goes on. You know, a woman sees her son, that's my son. That's not my son, that's him. These things are not a mistake. Allah created man in the best way. He fashioned him in the what? Ahsani taqweem. And from that is the amazing depth of the mind, the heart, and the soul. So we don't put a cap and a limit on the abilities that Allah has given the human being. Allah, do cats see jinns? They often jump at the air of flight air. Allah, do cats see jinns? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. What's important is that in the Quran and the Sunnah, there is no doubt there are certain abilities that Allah has given to certain animals and insects and birds. The bee, the ants. Everyone understand this? The punishment in the grave. Everything here is the punishment in the grave except for men and jinn. And if they heard the punishment in the grave, they would pass out. لَوْلَا أَن تَدَفَنُوا. You have to bury your dead. That's why Allah doesn't allow us to hear the screams of the grave. So there's certain things Allah has given to animals that He hasn't given to what? To us. Let alone what some of the ulama of Islam, such as Shaykh Hussain Taymiyyah, mentioned about the jinn taking the form of certain animals. Wallahu a'lam. How do you get the punishment of the grave if you're cremated? Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir. Allah Azza wa Jalla is able to do all things. Once more, there's no cap or limit on Allah's omnipotence and His power. Allah knows that people will be cremated or blown up, or a dog will eat them, or a whale will swallow them. Allah knows these things. And the world of the unseen is not like the world of the seen. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions how He created man. قُتِلَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا أَكْفَرَهُ مِنْ أَيِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقَهُ. Allah says, cursed is man. What an ingrate he is. What was he made from? How was he made? And then He mentions how He made man, gave him life. ثُمَّ أَمَاتَهُ فَأَقْبَرَهُ. Then He calls him to die, and then He allows him to be in a grave. Meaning that's the asl. Everyone will not be buried in the grave. Allah knows this. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَخْفَى عَلَيْهِ شَيْءٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فِي السَّمَاءِ. Nothing is hidden to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And from that are people that will be blown in the pits. People that will be torn apart by animals. Allah knows this. But the asl of man and how He honored man is to be placed in the grave. So anyone who dies from this ummah is going to be tested, questioned, and squeezed in his or her grave. However they die. The way, the manner, Allah surely knows. And it will be questioned no matter what. Wallahu a'lam. Do we keep our names in Jannah, in paradise? Allah knows best. The hadith of Bara ibn Azib radiallahu anhu, Sunan Abi Dawood, the famous hadith about leaving this world and entering into the next life or the afterworld, teaches us is that the angels, they will call that person by the best names by which he or she was known in this world. The best names that he was called and addressed with or by. Wallahu ta'ala. Take a question from online. Question says, OS from Columbia, Missouri. Assalamu alaikum. If there are live online classes with both brothers and sisters attending, is it okay for the sisters to speak aloud and participate? Or is it, I guess, mixed? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. As Brother Ali Davis taught us last week, everything is permissible and lawful to do until proven to be impermissible or disliked. It's permissible. And the asl is that people should seek knowledge, participate in seeking knowledge, men and women, until there's proof in the Quran and Sunnah stating that a man cannot do this, like in this class, a woman cannot do this in that class. So the concept of men and women being physically sitting in one place, a woman's voice, a man's voice, etc. Whatever's in the Quran and the Sunnah that prevents that, we don't do it. Whatever is not in the Quran and the Sunnah that doesn't prevent that, it's allowed. And there are many hadiths which the Prophet ﷺ spoke to women and women spoke to him. The companions spoke to women and women spoke to the companions. Rather, the Quran itself and the verse that is used by many scholars and people today that a woman's voice is awra proves that a woman's voice is not awra. The verse that they use is the belief that it isn't an awra. فَلَا تَخْضَعْنَ لِلْقَوْلِ فَيَطْمَعَ الَّذِي فِي قَلْبِهِ مَرَضٌ. Allah says, don't soften your voices. Do not sweeten your voices. Do not perfume your voice unless sick men whose hearts are diseased and ill, will become lustful. وَقُلْنَا قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. The next part of the verse says, but make an honorable word. Speak honorably. So the verse prohibits something, and it also what? Commands something. You understand? Understanding the text properly. So it says, don't soften the voice, but it clearly tells the woman to do what? To speak. We've mentioned many times before, a fa'idah from tafsir of Sa'di rahimahullah, that this verse is meant to prevent people from having misconceptions and misunderstandings. And many sisters, they have these misconceptions and misunderstandings, especially here in Philly. There's no doubt about that. And they think it's from the sunnah to be rude. They think it's the sunnah to be rude and not to be polite. And they think that's being shy and bashful. That's the sunnah. Who taught them this? Who gave them that education? Who taught them that was the sunnah? We know who. People that didn't study it for a long time. The people that we say they had an amateuristic strategy. They just barely began to pick up the wooden sword. They didn't learn for a long enough time to understand the true fiqh of the nusus. Sheikh Sa'di, he says that this verse is a proof, and the wisdom behind that last part of that ayah, Surah Al-Ahzab, is to show women not to be nasty and rude and disrespectful when they speak. Don't perfume your voice, but doesn't mean that you be what? Nasty. Assalamu alaikum. Can I speak to Brother Abdullah? Wa alaikum assalam. He's not here right now. Can I take a message? No, thank you. Wa alaikum assalam. That's it. Some people's houses, you may call, can I speak to Brother? Here. They hang up on you. Literally. This happened before. Can I speak to Brother? I see he's not here. They hang up. Am I making this up? Or in the streets, a sister, she comes in the store. Oh, assalamu alaikum, mom, can I get such and such? It's not the sunnah. To be rude and impolite, and to be mechanic and robotic and fake. Now you don't go in there speaking sweet, soft, like you talk to your husband, whispering in his ear at night. Of course. You don't go there laughing and joking and being loose and flirtatious. But it doesn't mean that you have to be nasty. It doesn't mean that you have to be rude. It doesn't have to mean that you act like something that you're not. وَقُلْنَا قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. Say something which is honorably when you speak. The Messenger of Allah said, the woman came to him, and the doorman said, she says, it's Zainab. He says, hey, you Zainab. Which Zainab is it? She says, the wife of Ibn Mas'ud. And he told her to come in. And she complained about Ibn Mas'ud. And she asked, was Ibn Mas'ud right? That I should give my money to him and to the orphans that we look after, the people in our house? It says, your husband has spoken the truth. Hani, Fatmekka, she went to the Prophet as he was washing up, being covered by a piece of cloth. He was washing up. And he spoke to her. And she complained. Inni qad ajartu fulan. I've given such and such person an agreement of peace. Hadith after hadith after hadith. So it's not haram to speak. It isn't haram for a man to hear a woman's voice, let alone in a what? A class. And I'm going to tell you a story now. A story, I'm going to say this, I'm not trying to offend no one, but this is a real story, okay? I was in the country, I won't mention where. Perhaps people are listening and watching. Allah. So it was a college. We were given a workshop. There were brothers on one side or in the front and sisters in the back. So there was a woman there, an older woman who was married with children. Her children were grown. And she had a teenage daughter that was there studying with her. So anyone who knows me knows that we do interactive classes. That's how we do it. I don't like to bore people. I like people to be interactive and to participate. Brothers can read and sisters can read. So the younger sister, she wanted to read. So she read, alhamdulillah, jazakallahu khairan, no problem. So after the lecture, and this was mind-boggling because I knew the brother, I was over the brother's house, I knew his father, everything was all good and peachy. So he said, assalamu alaikum, Sheikh, I need to know, why was my sister reading in the class? Why was she reading? And he wasn't like attacking me or coming at me. He was like disturbed that he says, all of these brothers here and no one else could read? Only my little sister? Only my teenage sister? Why couldn't no one else read? I said, I don't know, Akhi. I asked the people to read. They didn't raise their hands. And she raised her hand and I called on her. He says, I'm ashamed on these brothers. They don't want to read, but they let my sister read. That's not right. My sister shouldn't be reading. I said, no problem. So his mother came to me. She's an older woman. And she said, who's right? Is my son right or am I right? Women should seek knowledge. You should be happy that your sister wants to read in the class and benefit and so on. You should be happy. He says, no. That's my sister. There's too many brothers here. Why can't these brothers raise their hands and seek knowledge, so on and so forth? So I didn't say anything once I saw that his cup was overflowing with water, full of information. He was stuck on his opinion, and I walked away from it. And then later on, I discovered that his sister, his teenage sister, goes to a free mixed college. Do you think she participates in the college with those non-Muslims? If a male professor comes in the room, what's she going to say? If he calls on her, what is she going to say? She's going to raise her hand and say, I can't. But he becomes angry and jealous among an auditorium full of Muslims. Something is mentally what? It's not right. And the same applies to brothers. Their wives work, they go outside, they talk, they do this, no problem. But Muslims, masjid, class, lecture, it's the cardinal sin. And that's ghulu, it's extremism. And the other extreme as well, sisters that are too flirtatious, that are too open. They talk, they laugh, they joke, and they don't have no type of shyness. And the best thing is what? Dead smack where? In the middle. You understand this? So if the voice is not perfumed, and if it's not saying something which is foul and lustful, then a woman's voice is just like a what? A man's voice. Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala, he held the view and the opinion that those who say that the woman's voice is awra, qawlun da'if. Said it was weak. It's not a strong view at all. Wallahu a'lam. Next question says, OS from Columbia, Missouri. What should one do if the non-Muslim teacher of the same gender wants to keep in contact after graduation, but they don't have the ilm and hikmah for da'wah? Don't stay in contact with them. Tell them, you can email me or whatever, or, I'll try to be indirect without offending a person, without giving a bad representation of dawah. You don't have no intention of giving them dawah, you graduated, class, that's it. Or refer them to someone else. This person can answer your questions, or this person can such and such. And being that time, eventually they'll get the point. And there's, no offense taken, inshallah, in time. But tell someone, no. After this person taught you, helped you graduate, right to his face, is going to be obviously what? A bad representation of Islam. So you're so pious and righteous that I can't even say let's stay in contact after you graduated, but were you that pious and righteous when you were what? Studying with me before you got the degree. I would understand the problem, how the misrepresentation happens to the Muslims. If you're so pious and righteous, what are you doing in this courtroom with these problems and with these issues? How do you even come here? If you're so pious and righteous, what are you doing in the jail? How do you end up in the jail? I can't do this, no, that's haram, no, I don't do that, that's a bid'ah, I don't take it in person. So why are you in jail for selling drugs and guns? Something is seriously wrong with the psyche of the people today. So if you're that pious and righteous, then you should avoid those situations and stay what? Away from those situations. So we have to be mindful of how we represent Islam. And one of the worst things to do is to take the good from a non-Muslim, and then when the non-Muslim tries to be normal with you, tell them, no, I can't. It's impermissible against my religion. He's not going to respect your religion, because you're supposed to practice your religion what? All around the board, in all aspects. So that's what I would do, and Allah knows best. Next question says, question from the same question, OS, Columbia, Missouri. If a person goes to a place which isn't traveling distance, but then they go to a place B after the place B is traveling distance from their home, is this considered traveling if they return to place A before going home, even if it wasn't their intention to go to place B where they left? If you travel, you travel. Whether you stopped, whether you cut the trip in half or not, you're no longer where you live. You're in a new city, a new state that is now considered safar, and you're now in a musafir or a musafira, with or without a mahram. So you went next door to this place, which isn't a new town, and then you then you jump to another place that's safar. You've made safar now. And the rulings of safar now what? Apply. Wallahu a'lam. Question says, I see al-wala wal-bara on every channel. Muhammad Salah from Farawaniya, Kuwait. أنا عندي ظن عبدي بي ظن خير هكذا فله وإن ظن شر فله صحيح الحبان. Jazakallah khairan, may Allah bless you. Allah says, أنا عند ظن عبدي بي. How my servant thinks of me is how my servant will find me. How my servant thinks of me is how he will find me. If my servant mentions me in a group, I will mention him in a group that's better. To the end of the hadith. As the Prophet narrated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hadith Qudsi. What's meant by this hadith, as it's in the Quran, what do you think about Allah? How do you think about Allah? Do you think Allah is lacking, deficient? He's going to break his promise? Allah is cruel? Allah is unjust and unfair? Then perhaps that's what you'll find. And if you have faith in Allah, and love, and respect, and trust in Allah, then what? That's what you'll find. Allah's beauty, Allah's perfection, that is what you think about Allah and know about Allah and believe about Allah, and that's how you'll find it so. Everyone understand this? The fitrah of the servant and having good thoughts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is not going to waste us. Allah is not going to forsake us. Allah is not going to break his promise. He's clearly promised us. Those who do this in his cause, those who put their trust in him, that's what's meant by that. And Allah knows best. Next question says, Anwar Ali from London. Assalamu alaikum. Is it advisable to specifically look for previously married sisters, as it could be said that there's a better ratio of how she looks, her receptiveness to kind treatment? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. It depends on what you're looking for. It depends on what you're looking for. Oftentimes, a woman who's been in a marriage and she's divorced or she's a widow and she's older, perhaps she could be more mature. She could be more seasoned. She could know exactly what she's looking for. Whereas a younger girl, a woman that's never been married, she may think this is the husband that she wants, but it's not actually the husband that she wants and needs. Okay, it's possible. What's important is a tawfiq is only from Allah. You can marry an older woman that's not that attractive, that's not that receptive, and be happy with her. And you can marry a younger woman, she's a virgin, she's never been married, she's beautiful, and not be happy with her. Or she may not be happy with you. And that's why the Prophet says, Barakallahu laka, wa baraka alayka, wa jama'a baynakuma bikhayr. The beauty of this supplication. May Allah give you blessing, meaning, may Allah make you happy through her. Wa baraka alayka. And may Allah put blessings on you, yani, for her. And most importantly, and may Allah give you chemistry. Because you can be righteous, you can be pious, she can be beautiful, drop dead gorgeous. You can be so handsome. But it doesn't mean it's going to work out. It doesn't mean that it's going to last. It doesn't mean that you're meant for each other. So that's only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's important is try to find someone that's compatible for you. Try to find someone that's into your lifestyle. And not someone that has to convert into your lifestyle, someone who's already in gear. And we say this advice to young brothers who want to go overseas all of the time. Do not marry a sister who says, I want to seek knowledge and I want to go overseas. I want to learn. No, don't do it. 99.9% of the time is what? It's not going to work. And in most cases, the sister is only marrying you for who you are. You're cute, you're handsome, you dress nice, you're funny, you're a good provider. That's it. And you being a student of knowledge, a graduate, studying in university, that's what? A janibi. In most cases, that's only what? That's a side garnish. That's a side garnish. And if she found those characteristics among someone who was a layman, she would marry the layman person. And that's why we see such a high divorce rate with students of knowledge. They go overseas, they live overseas for all of those years, and then what happens? The sister says, I don't want to live that lifestyle no more. I'm not into that no more. Or this is all you, that's what you wanted. But that's not what she actually what? Wanted. And Allah knows best. Maybe she did, maybe she got burnt out, maybe the brother oppressed her. I don't want him, you all get the point I'm trying to get to. Is that you have to marry a sister who's already in motion with your lifestyle. She's already studying, already. And you take her and take her to the next level. She's already pious and righteous, wearing the niqab and the hijab. Not a sister that's wearing tights and the khimar says, I'm going to put on the niqab if you ask me. In most cases, it doesn't what? It doesn't work. So you have to find someone that's into your lifestyle. Someone that's into what you're into. Someone who sees eye to eye with you. Not on everything, but the main things. Old, young, married, divorced, virgin, whatever the case may be. Wallahu a'lam. Next question says, Assalamu alaikum. What is the ruling on elderly sister wanting to meet you in person for no other reason than she listened to you every day, benefit from you, and consider you her adopted son? That's from Brooklyn, UK. May Allah bless you. And may Allah unite us upon all which is good in this life and in hereafter. I mean, keeping it real and being realistic, you meet people all of the time. And I'm not exaggerating. This is a normal thing. You may be on the bus, the train, the airplane, the airport. And you meet someone who says, hey, Hadith disciple, oh, you're such and such. Are you Muhammad ibn Muneer? Are you such and such? Wallahi, all the time. Just now, we were in San Diego. Brother walks up to you, gives you a bear hug. When we were in London last time, it wasn't London, what was the name of the city? It was outside of London. Brother scolded me to death. He says, I watch you every night. He says, I benefit from you every night. I love you. I learned so much from you, and I just want to tell you, Jazakallah khairan. And then he says, wait, I'm going to bring you some tea. So it's obviously I can't hug a sister if she's not my sister, my mother, my daughter. But if a sister saw me in the street, she says, Assalamu alaikum, especially if she's older than me, I'll say, Wa alaikum assalam. Ukhti, may Allah bless you. Jazakallah khairan for the love. Jazakallah khairan for the support. May Allah bless you. If she had a book, a Mufti Q&A, or whatever she wanted me to sign, then that's bil ma'ruf. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing what? There's nothing wrong with that. All right? Wallahu a'lam. There's nothing wrong with that, huh? It's what? There's nothing wrong with that. And Allah knows best. Father Rafi.
What is the importance of knowing we're a student of knowledge?
Come on, Akhi. What is the importance of Father?
What is the importance of knowing where a student of knowledge study from and what is credentials? Being as though we living in a time now, especially in Philadelphia, when you ask a person where you study from, they get totally offensive, like it's an insult. Like,
what is the importance of knowing where a student of knowledge has studied at? What have they studied? We live in a time and a place in which you ask someone this question and become offended. It's not important, Yahi. Seeking knowledge is not important. Being a student of knowledge is not important. It doesn't matter. If Sheikh Fulan mentions your name in an audio, or if these brothers know you, that's all that matters. Rather, for you to bring up your credentials or to say you studied there, that's a sign that you're arrogant and conceited. And the way of the Salaf as-Salih is not based upon knowledge and spending years overseas. Doesn't matter what books did you memorize the Quran, Usul. It's not important. That's not important, Yahi. Don't be arrogant. Take the advice. The Salaf never mentioned their what? Credentials, as the noble brother said. That's what he said. Salaf never mentioned their credentials. Did the Salaf have the University of Medina, Yahi? So what's important is that's not from the way of the Salaf. It doesn't matter. As long as you sound good, you speak good, you know a little Arabic, Brother Fulan knows you, Brother Fulan, then you can get on the minbar and teach the people their deen. And you can talk about brothers who spent years in the sacred city of Mecca. You understand? That's the correct way. For him to? Unfortunately, it's a reality. You want to make that was that you? It's not important. When we have, it's unfortunate. And wallahi, Allah knows best. Some of the people at Islam University of Medina and Mecca, perhaps they would be utterly repulsed if they heard some of the statements made from people who studied and graduated from their universities. Allah understand. Some of the atrocious statements of people who studied there and they misrepresent their name in that degree. It's horrible. People to make statements like this, huh? And alhamdulillah, we've explained this many years ago. Those people who are not keeping it real, they're not being sincere. They say that this means nothing and that means nothing and it's not important, but on, like you said, on their flyers, they what? They mention that. Keep it real. Be fair. Be upfront. Whenever you have the ability to mention something, Sheikh Fulan, Tazki, this and that, it means something. But your opponent or someone that's not in your clique, someone that's not in your circle, it means what? Nothing. Regardless who's right, who's wrong, who's a deviant, who's in the hellfire, play it. No problem. Whatever you say. But at least be what? Be fair. Don't have a triple standard. Don't have a what? A triple standard. Everyone understand this? Be fair. Someone calls this person a sheikh, he's a sheikh. Someone calls another person a sheikh, oh, they're just calling him that out of respect. He's not really a sheikh. So if the sheikh calls a person a sheikh, why can't you call him that? Just be fair. Be honest. Be just. Everyone understand this? With your opponent. With your what? Allah says, وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَعْدِلُوا. When you speak, be what? Be just. لَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ Allah says, do not allow the hatred of a people to cause you to be what? Unjust. That's what the Quran says. So this is one of the greatest proofs, is that what these people are saying or upon isn't a bunch of much. And that's because they're not fair. And they're not keeping it real. They're not being honest with themselves or their followers. Everyone understand this? So therefore, all of those narrations of ilm and the salaf and the ulama mean what? Nothing. You got it? Wallahu a'lam. Next question. Question comes from MF from Staten Island, New York. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is it normal for one to be fasting and feel sad / depressed? What can one do in such situations? Keep fasting. Keep fasting being in that time. Make your body and your mind accustomed to it. Ask Allah for His sweetness. And perhaps abundant fasting isn't for you. Maybe Ramadan is what you should just do. Maybe you have an effect or an imbalance in your body when you don't have the necessary food and drink. Allahu Alam. And there are different people who have different connections to food and drink. This is reality. Some people have emotional connection to what? It's reality. Only Allah knows. Assalamu alaikum. Abdul Hakim from Fort Worth, Texas. In vitro fertilization or surrogacy permitted? I love you for the sake of Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. With regards to the concept of the different methods of fertilization, the ulama of Islam, they mention certain things are allowed and others aren't. A man being married to a woman, his fluid being placed inside of her or with her eggs, ovaries, etc. That's one thing. As far as another man, a foreign man, a way that's unknown, then that's a different story. Lineage is being mixed up and intertwined, that's a different story. So the different methods and the different ways of doing it, none of those are that important as long as it isn't harmful to the body and as long as the asl remains, is that it is his water and her garden, and they are married. You understand this? Anything other than that is going to become what? Problematic. Wallahu alam. Next question. Hopefully that answers the question. Hopefully that's what they meant. Wallahu alam. Question comes from Shakira bint Pollard. May Allah reward you. That classification regarding hadith, the length of a woman's garment, understanding the principle of fiqh. May Allah bless you. AA from Santa Rosa, California. What is the ruling on getting paid on sick days at work? There's nothing wrong with that. That's a part of your agreement. That's a part of the custom and the tradition of the people. And that's something that the employer offers for his employees. There's nothing wrong with that. And we have to understand with regards to the fiqh rulings is that many of them are based off of the culture and the norms, like giving a tip. Somebody says you can't give a tip. Tip is rishwa. The waiter or the server is going to give you special service. They want to steal food. La yanzam. You may go to a place and never ever go back, then you give them a tip. Or they give you some extra biscuits at this restaurant. I gave you an extra drink. I didn't charge. That's something mimad jarat to be an aida. And oftentimes the boss or the supervisor would get mad and angry if they would say, hey, I gave these guys an extra thing of biscuits. He says, what's wrong with you? I want you to give them extra biscuits because that's how we keep, and what? You see it, yani. There's something slight. It's not a loss. So we have to understand the culture and the environment in which we live. Wallahu a'lam. Abdul Hakim from Rochester, New York. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. What is a valid reason for marrying a second wife? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please go back to our playlist on marriage or polygamy in light of Kitab and Sunnah. Why do you have to have a valid reason to take a second wife? As if it's something wrong or extra or out of the ordinary. What is the funky mathna? Allah says marry the pleasing women 2, 3, or 4. And if you can't, then 1. Allah never said 1, 2, 3, or 4. So the whole concept of how we look at polygamy, or some say polygyny, we have to change our perception. And we have to get rid of the filthy. It's not absolutely filthy. Everything from the West isn't filthy. But there are many things which are when it comes to the Sharia and how they look at polygamy and monogamy. We have to get rid of it. You have to get out of that till death do us part. It's not Islam. Riding off in the sunset on a white horse, man and woman, that's not Islam. It's not Islam. And we've been brainwashed and influenced by this culture. That's not Islam. And only Allah knows a man takes on a second wife, as they say, forgive me of my French or my expression, say all hell breaks loose. This one goes crazy, this one, this family member, this one, what did you do wrong? I made zina. I got this woman pregnant from zina. I beat this woman, I got married to a second woman. Permissible, lawful, take care of her, she take care of her. What sin did you make? And only Allah knows. Yani everything is all peaceful and quiet until you put the heat on the bottom of the pot. And then the water boils and bubbles. And then you really see who's who. Quran, Sunnah, Hadith, the Prophet, the way of the Salaf. You get a second wife, you see where the way of the Salaf goes. You see where the Quran and Hadith goes. Everything goes crazy. And then you sit around and turn around saying, what did I do wrong? And they'll find 1,000,001 excuses. And I'm not talking about one person, I'm speaking in general. To find a problem in it. And a sister, she says, and this is very common, I'm not talking about one person, they say, I don't have a problem with polygamy, but as soon as you say that to me, sister, what? You disqualified yourself from even listening to what you got to say. Because if you didn't have a problem with it, then you wouldn't say that. You complain about your first, not your second husband, maybe in Philly, but you complain about your husband. You one husband that you have, inshallah. Some sisters have more than one husband. Huh? It's reality. You'd be shocked, huh? You complain about your husband, that's one thing. He's unfair, he's unjust, he's this and that. Regardless and oblivious of the second wife. He's a good husband with you and only you. And he's going to, inshallah, be a good husband with what? A second wife. So we find people, I'm not against it, but. Or some say, why do you need 2 wives? Or why do you need 3 wives? What type of question is that? Who's our guide? Who are we supposed to be like? How many wives did the Prophet have and die with? So people, they want to just conveniently pick and choose what they want from the deen. And that's all because of our culture and our mindset. So what is a valid reason? Give me a valid reason not to take what? 2 wives, as long as you can be just. As long as you're mature enough, strong enough. As long as you can do according to your agreements. Well, how can that? Please go back to the playlist that we did, which we explained that issue in detail, and Allah surely knows best. Next question says, NR from Toronto, Ontario. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. What is the rule on raising the hands for dua and witr? Can they be kept on the chest after the takbir? And what is the best method to pray with the salah? There's nothing wrong with raising your hands. The ulama of Islam mentioned, it's room in the issue. Raise them if you want to. Keep them to your side. Put them on your chest if you want to. And some of the ulama of Islam say make the witr, the qunut before the ruku' or after the ruku'. Kullu dhalika wasi'a. La haraj. And there's no need to fight and argue over that issue. You understand this? As far as the best way to make witr, anything that's in the sunnah. Whatever is in the authentic hadith, then it's permissible to do it. And as we've explained, Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned about the virtue and the excellence of diversifying your ibadah and doing it in all of the ways and modes that have been mentioned in the sunnah. Not to become bored. The Prophet did it like this, he did it like that, and now he did it another way. The adhan, the jumu'ah, the salah, you mix it up. And don't keep everything ritual. And it's always the same thing, because people, they lose the touch if you keep doing it the same way. As long as it's in the authentic sunnah. So you make 3 rak'ats altogether, 2, 1 salam and 1, 5 rak'ats, 7 rak'ats, 9 rak'ats, whatever's in the authentic sunnah. With regards to the styles of making witr, and Allah knows best. Next question says, RC from Newcastle, UK. Is it permissible to narrate weak hadith in Fada'ilul Amal? Is there evidence for this? The ulama of Islam, they have mentioned and narrated all types of weak hadiths. In Fada'ilul Amal, in Ahkam, in Tafsir, and all other aspects of ilm. All other aspects of ilm. Imam Ahmad, Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi, what would they say? إِذَا رُوِينَا They says whenever we narrate the hadiths concerning the fada'il and zuhud and raqaq, تساهلنا. وإذا روينا أو روينا في الحلال والحرام شددنا. And whenever we talk about the lawful and the unlawful, we restrict. So anyone who reads the classic, traditional books of Islam is going to find a plethora of weak hadiths. In Ibn Kathir, in Musnad Ahmed, in this book, and in that book. The concept that there's no use of a weak hadith. It can never be mentioned. It's totally useless. Only the authentic hadiths are used. Where is that concept coming from? On that scale. We've explained this many times before as well. Wallahu a'lam. Next question says, J8 Philadelphia, PA. Assalamu alaikum. What is your opinion regarding women praying at home all the time and only coming out with the Jama'at during the Eid? Is this correct? And could your iman go down because of it? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. In the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, women were in the masjid. In the time of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, women came to the masjid. They attended the masjid. And the Prophet prevented the men from stopping their wives from going to the masjid. Those hadiths are in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. The hadith that states that the best place for a woman to pray is in her house. The best place for a woman to pray is in the inner part of her house. They're not necessarily collected in Bukhari and Muslim. Are they as authentic? Are they as strong as the authentic hadith? لا تمنعوا إماء الله مساجد الله. That's the first question. So whether it's permissible or whether it's best to pray in the home or not, what's important is to mix things up. And there's a virtue in going to the masjid. There's a virtue in the jama'ah, seeing your sisters, listening to the class, of feeling that you get sitting in the masjid that you can't get at home. Not on your kids jumping on you. It's the same environment, it's the same atmosphere, it's a difference. And perhaps one's iman could fall by never ever going to the masjid and never ever mixing it up. Wallahu a'lam. Fadl ya akhi.
Can you speak about mental health?
Mental health in Quran and Sunnah. We did many khutbahs on that. On mental health. Many khutbahs, at least 3, 2 for sure. We talked about health and we talked about mental health. And how Allah created the aql to be correct and sound. And that a Muslim could become mentally ill. We spoke about that in detail. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah says when we send down from the Quran that which is a cure and a mercy to the believers. A cure for their bodies, their souls, and their minds. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ دَاءً إِلَّا أَنزَلَ لَهُ دَوَاءً. No sickness that is on earth except that we have its equal and cure. And from that is mental illness. A person could become mentally ill. 100%, 30%, 20%. It's possible. And the Muslims should not be out of the loop with regards to the reality of mental illness. It isn't something which is a bid'ah or it's just for the kuffar. We have problems. And there lies no doubt that the imam is needed at the masjid, a counselor is needed at the masjid, a lawyer is needed at the masjid, professional security is needed at the masjid. All of these things are what? Are needed. Professional chef is needed at the masjid. The cheesecake, yahi, is needed what? At the masjid. Because Islam is made for every aspect of what? Of life. And obviously we know how hypocritical the media is when a Muslim or someone who says they're Muslim does an act of violence. They say it's in the name of Islam. An Islamic terrorist, Islamic revolutionary extremist. But a Christian does it, or a Jew does it, or this person does it of this race or that race, they say, oh, he was mentally disturbed. They make excuses for them, but never excuse for anyone else. And the Muslims can become mentally ill just like what? Just like anybody else. So the cure is originally in the Kitab and in the Sunnah. But it doesn't mean that there's no other cure outside of the Quran and Sunnah. Whether that's medicine, whether that's therapy, whatever that is, as long as it doesn't go against the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah. So you find brothers, they'll go to the hospital when they get sick or get into a car accident, and they won't make the adhkar. But mental health, it says only what? Ibn Qayyim, that's it. You can't go see this therapist. You can't do that. You can't go to the kuffar and tell them about your problems. You can't do this, you can't do that. But you go to the kuffar, you show them your aura. They perform surgery on you. They do all types of things to you. What's the difference now? And it goes back to that hypocritical mind state that many of us have. Allahu a'lam. Next question says, Obeid from San Diego, California. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. I hope all is well with you. Abu Sa'id and your families. What is the ruling on using camera filters in general? More specifically, the one that has recently been popular that ages your face. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you, Ubaid, Yaqub, Muawiyah, your father, Sheikh Abu Yusuf, and everyone else in San Diego. May Allah preserve you and keep you all upon the straight path. Allahumma ameen. SubhanAllah, the other night we were talking about this. Me and some of the brothers who came to visit us from Toronto, alhamdulillah, we were talking about the Face app. And he mentioned a statement of a student of knowledge or an imam, I don't know, give or take, which is the two. He said that, brother said that taking a picture, the modern day ulama, what they mean, Albani, Ibn Baz, Lajna Daima, etc., they differ on this issue. So you can take one of the two views. But the Face app is totally haram, and that's because it's changing the creation of Allah, it's imitating the creation of Allah, which is the main reason why those ulama say that taking a photograph is haram. Now in the speech it sounds good, but when we actually sit down and break it down, the speech is lacking something, it's lacking thoroughness. And that's because if you say the issue of taking a photo or video was studied and presented to the ulama, and they had different decisions on it, then has the Face app been taken to the ulama? And have they decided on it and had different views on it? Either you're going to say it's halal to take pictures because of the Kitab and Sunnah, it's haram to take pictures because of the Kitab and Sunnah, and it's haram to use Face app. Or you're going to say the ulama have discussed that issue, and they've also discussed this issue. Or understand the point I'm trying to get? Inconsistency now. So, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if you have any doubt, then the asl is to do without. Stay away from it. A person can say, الَّذِينَ يُضَاهُونَ بِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ, those who imitate Allah's creation, making someone look old, making someone age. And someone else may say, well, the picture's already taken. I'm not doing anything, I'm not changing anything. And it's straightforwardly. It's hypothetical. There's no guarantee that you're going to look like this when you get older. There's no guarantee that you even want to what? Live that old. There's no guarantee that your face is going to wrinkle like that. There's no guarantee. So as if this is something which is a pre-assumption. Hypothetical pre-assumption. Huh? So I wouldn't say that it's haram to use a Face app. Especially if you just did it once and you looked at it. I wouldn't say it's haram. If you have doubt about it, you should leave it alone. But this issue should be taken to those fuqaha and those ulama, just like the issue of the camera and the photograph and the video camera was taken to them. And then see what their decision is. And from there, as a student of knowledge, you take your view, which makes the most sense to you. Because this is a new thing, it's a nazila. It's a nazila, it's a new modern day fiqh issue. Everyone understand this? And Allah surely knows best. Question 6. A.M. Birmingham. Should a person get married before college or after college once you've graduated? It all depends, to be honest with you, Akhi. But in general, get married. Get a righteous wife, a beautiful righteous wife that can protect you, you can protect her. She can help you focus, you can help her focus. And if you really want to study and graduate, nothing can stop you. A woman is not going to stop you. A child is not going to stop you if you really are a good student. But if you're a weak student, you're not that strong, you're easily distracted, you can't multitask, then perhaps it's best to wait. But if you wait, make sure you fast. Make sure that you hold fast and you fast. Make sure that you're not falling and slipping and committing haram things. But if you don't have that sabr, you don't have that self-control, and it's too much for you to bear, get married. And who cares about college? You make zina, you lose your iman, you lose your soul. The Prophet ﷺ says, وَلَا يَزْنِ الزَّانِي هِينَ يَزْنِي وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. He says the fornicator fornicates, and at the time of fornication, he isn't a believer. Ibn Abbas said that the iman is taken from him, يُنْزَعُ مِنْهُ الْإِيمَانِ, and it's above him كَالظُلْمَ, like a cloud, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. And if Allah wills to give it back, He gives it back. And if Allah wills, He doesn't give it back. So you may make zina, you may experience the sweetness of zina, and you may never ever be able to forget it and do without it. Your iman, the jealousy for Allah's rules may never be given back to you. Who cares if you graduate from school? So what? If you were on the street selling fruit and you weren't making zina, that's better for you. That's pure for you. If it came down to it. If it what? If it came down to it. And if you can be patient, take care of yourself, save the necessary money, nothing luxurious, basic stuff, then alhamdulillah, maybe that's best. Or maybe it's best to get married first. يَا مَعْشَرَ الشَّبَابِ مَنْ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمُ الْبَاءَ فَلْيَتَزَوَّجْ. That's the prophetic advice. Wallahu alam. Next question says, Muhammad Ishaq from Kabul, Afghanistan. Assalamu alaikum. Why is the hadith used by Imam Abu Hanifa considered weak, especially based on the criteria of muhaddithin from few generations after? And your opinion on the practice of the people of Medina and Kufa versus ahadith? Thank you, brother. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you, bless all of the Muslims in the lands of Afghanistan, and bring peace and harmony and justice to the Muslims in Afghanistan. Ameen. With regards to your question, which is a very important question, we have many people who have done a great disservice to these imams. They've done a disservice to Abu Hanifa. They've done a disservice to Imam Malik. First and foremost, by being fanatical. Secondly, by not taking the most basic advice of these imams. خُذُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَخَذْنَا. They all told their followers, take what we took from. Don't blind follow me. Don't take me as your idol, quote unquote. Don't hero worship me. Take what I took from. That was the advice of Abu Hanifa, of Malik, Shafi, of Ahmed, kulluhum. They all gave that advice to their followers. So any fanatical follower is immediately doing a disservice to the one whom he is following. And this also applies to modern day dawah and modern day sheikhs. That's not the true legacy of the ulama. Number two, many people, they do a disservice to these scholars by misquoting them or misunderstanding their speech, misinterpreting what they actually meant and intended. And from that is the concept of hadiths. So those who say that Abu Hanifa would never take a hadith. Abu Hanifa would only take a hadith. Abu Hanifa would never disregard a hadith. Imam Malik would never, slow down. There's times in which he took the hadith, there are times in which he didn't for another reason. So it's detail, it has to be a tafsir. It's not just black and white. Alright? Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, he wrote his famous book, Raf'ul Malam, on A'immat al-A'lam, in which he made excuses for the imams that took views and opinions in which they didn't take it directly from the hadith. Maybe he didn't know about the hadith, maybe he didn't consider the hadith weak, maybe he had qiyas, maybe he had ijma', maybe. So there are different reasons why. But in general, Abu Hanifa took hadiths. Imam Malik took hadiths, but they had understanding and they had principles with regards to the hadiths. I would understand this? In Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala, if you look at what he's saying, if you look at what Abu Hanifa is saying in general, it makes sense. So let's make a hypothetical example. Here is a hadith that says, fast the 6 days of Shawwal. And Malik is living in Medina with the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, not with the Sahaba, but the Tabi'een, etc. The ulama, the best of the best. And he said, according to his narration, I never saw any virtuous person fast in those days, ever. I never saw any scholar fasting the 6 days of Shawwal. So, hypothetically speaking, we said, hypothetically, what's the chance of this authentic narration being authentic and well known as such a great virtue and not one single alim doing it in Medina? Hypothetically, Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, an example of qiyas or the usul. This is one single narration that hypothetically, I said, goes against a major principle well established from the Quran and Sunnah. And he says, I won't take this hadith to abandon a what? A qa'idah, an asl from the deen. Hypothetically, that makes what? Sense. This is clearly established in so many texts. And this one hadith reported by this one person, in this one isolated situation, says go against it. Hypothetically, that makes sense. But of course, we said hypothetically. So what's important is these imams, they would never reject a hadith that was authentic, that was sound, without a reason. They would never abandon the practice of hadith without a what? A reason. Whether they were right in those reasons or whether they were wrong, but they had reasons. That's what you need to know. And the more you study usul al-fiqh and fiqh itself and comparative fiqh, the more you have a better understanding of this. This will be our last question that we'll take, inshallah ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Last question says, AZ, location undisclosed. I'm so sorry, I can't answer the question if you don't follow rules. Jazakallahu khairan for understanding. People say, AB from Santa Rosa, California, there is a higher virtue and more reward in praying in Masjid al-Aqsa. Is this true? Thank you. Masjid al-Aqsa is one of the 3 masjids that the Messenger of Allah allowed us to travel towards for ibadah. It's haram to travel from one place to another just to worship in a place, except for Mecca, Medina, or Jerusalem. So Masjid al-Aqsa is a place which is Mubarak. That land is Mubarak. It's supposed to be a sacred place. May Allah remove it from those filthy hands. Ameen. And it's a virtue in praying in that masjid. There's no question about that. Better than Masjid al-Haram? No. Masjid al-Medina? No. Better than other masjids in general? Yes. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa barakatuh wa sunnah nabina wa imamina Muhammad.